President Obama has held more primetime press conferences in just his first few months in office than his predecessor, George W. Bush, held in 8 years. With all the televised speeches, late-night comedy shows, and town hall meetings, is President Obama overexposed? That's the subject of our face-off debate tonight. Joining me now, Howard Kurtz. He's host of CNN's Reliable Sources, staff writer at The Washington Post, who says the president's exposure is diluting his impact. Good to have you here. And Heidi Sinclair, a communications and branding expert, who says President Obama's exposure is carefully orchestrated and he is creating a very successful brand. Heidi, let me start with you. I mean, as we go through this, 4 primetime news conferences, he's held 15 town hall meetings. He's been on everything from 60 Minutes to The Tonight Show to baseball's All-Star Game. And you think this is, and this is just as it should be?
Well, you know, he is everywhere. I recently was flying into New York, and I had a hold on my flight because he was in our airspace, and I thought, okay, he's everywhere, and I loved it. You know, it was that sense that he is everywhere, and I think there's a couple good reasons for it. One is it's reassuring at a time when many Americans would like reassurance. They want to know that their president is available, and we are used to presidents who were not so available. We're used to having much more controlled access to the presidents, and particularly the media was often held at arm's length. So to have that kind of access is nice, and it's reassuring, and it makes us feel good. Secondly,
I'm sorry, but
go ahead.
I promised Howard Kurtz that I would give him at least 2 minutes here at some point. Let's start with these moments. Howie, you think he's in fact diluting his impact in public policy? How so?
Well, being constantly in front of the television cameras may be good for President Obama personally, Lou. When it comes to selling policy, and he is the salesman-in-chief, he's the best, most effective weapon that the administration has on health care, for example. If he's doing it all the time, every day, then the pitch may get to sound a little tired. I mean, my test is if you see the president on TV, do you go over and turn the volume up, or do you say, oh, there's Obama talking about health care again? I've basically heard the spiel. The 4th primetime news conference that you referenced, he made no news on that whatsoever. The only news he made was at the end on the last question about the Henry Louis Gates arrest. That can't be good for a president who needs to drive this debate if he's going to win the legislation he wants.
Well, let's, and if I may, I'd like to address this to both of you and hear from both of you. And you first, Heidi. We've seen in the ABC Washington Post poll a decline from 65% to 59%. From the CBS New York Times poll, a decline of 6% again. NBC Wall Street Journal from 56 to 53%. There is, you know, those are his overall approval ratings on health care. There has been an absolute inversion in the past month. More people oppose than supporting the president on health care. Heidi, you talk about a sustainable brand, but Howie has the numbers on his side in this, does he not?
Well, I think those are still fairly significantly high approval ratings, and you know, there's a couple things going. This is not a sprint, and Obama recognizes that it's not a sprint, and he also is looking at, you know, I hear Howard's point around you don't want to overwear your message, but I think there's a couple other things that are going for it, and that he's using multiple platforms in terms of various different media forums and formats, you know, whether it's a town hall or whether it's Twitter or whatever it is. There are multiple ways of getting the message out, and then he's taking it to the people.
And I agree that the use of new media, this White House is very good at that, and that's very good for the president. But you look at that week when he held the 4th primetime presser in late July. That week, the president talked to Meredith Vieira and Katie Couric and Jim Lehrer and Terry Moran on Nightline, and he didn't make any progress at all in selling, admittedly, the tough task of selling this complex legislation with opposition building. And here's the number that I focused on, Lou. The good news for the president is that 24 million Americans watched that 4th primetime press conference. The bad news is that's half as many as watched his first one at the beginning of the term.
Yeah, and you know, how you also reported that Rahm Emanuel, the White House chief of staff, went over the heads of all of the networks and twisted a lot of arms to get that July 22nd prime time hour, that 8 p.m. Eastern hour. What is the long-term effect of that, if any?
Well, you can only go to the well so many times. So you have Rahm calling the heads of General Electric and Disney and CBS Corporation to try to get that airtime, which costs the broadcast networks a lot of money. They give up an hour of advertising. I estimate that they've lost about $40 million combined for the 4 news conferences. They are getting frustrated with this president because I don't think they're automatically going to say yes if the news value is seen as diminishing and if the ratings are going down and if it's costing them at a time of difficulty for the media business. I don't think they're going to necessarily roll over every time the president wants an hour of prime time.
Heidi?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that if all of those ifs are true. But what you also see is that he's selling magazines.
I'm sorry,
I mean,
what's true?
If the ratings are down, if this, if that, if all of those things are actually true, I think that you will see less of these press conferences. But if you look at the entire media environment and Obama's presence within the entire media environment, you know, he's a celebrity and he is a brand, but he is a celebrity unlike any president that we've ever had. And what's exciting is that because he's a celebrity, he's bringing government to the people in a way that we've never experienced. So people are energized, they're following government, and they like seeing the Obamas in People magazine and on Entertainment Tonight, and they're curious and they're interested and they want to know more about not just the Obamas themselves, but also about their governing and about policy. So it's taking policy in a different way, and it's taking it out of the domain of the elite into the people.
A people that you describe as insatiable, Howard Kurtz, I think, suggesting perhaps there are limits. We thank you both for being here to share your opinions. Heidi, thank you very much. Howie, thank you.